Hey guys, Alicia from MotoLady here, but you probably already know that. This is the legendary Ray Ripple.
Hello.
Amazing metal artist and, well, pretty much everything extraordinaire. At one point, firefighter and underwater welder. So we have her here moderating, keeping me on track, asking me questions, all sorts of things. We're going to talk about the book and do a live signing. I'm pretty excited about the live signing because, you know, throughout the pandemic and after everything's starting to get back to normal with events, happening, we actually are able to do a book signing digitally. So here we are. I don't know. I guess we should just start talking about this thing. The MotoLady's book of Women Who Ride took me 2 years to write. And that's partially because of all of the awesome ladies in here. I took all the time necessary to learn the details and get all the facts right and check with them and talk to them specifically in person or over the phone whenever possible. So after 2 years of hard work, it's finally here. I'm very excited. Ray even got to check it out pretty much in depth for the first time today. What'd you think?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love how it starts with history and then goes into the modern women too. So just setting the bar high for all the new women that are coming to motorcycles in the industry or automotive industry or anybody that wants to be a part of it, period. Just
doing work.
Doing the thing.
Doing work, yeah. There's 74 individual profiles of historic and modern women in motorcycling that either have mostly influenced me personally, but also the rest of the world.
Look at all these amazing women. So, yes.
Yeah, I think actually there's a question about that.
Yes. Okay. So, are we jumping in?
Well, we don't have to go specifically to questions, but if I'm going to answer one of them, I would love to know what that one was.
So, how did you choose the ladies featured in your book?
Yeah. So, out of all of the women, which are hundreds and hundreds, that have paved the way for us to actually be able to do things like race and build bikes and be on the track, you know, doing AMA racing and everything else, whether that's getting the licensing or, you know, getting into wrenching and getting hired at dealerships and everything else. It was very hard to whittle things down. So I ended up with 74, not because those are the only ones that should be in the book, but that's because there's only so much space in a book. So, you know, maybe hopefully one day there will be a second one.
Like a volume 2, maybe, you know, wink, wink.
Yeah, right. I think that would be pretty cool. So there's, endless things that I can talk about with this, you know, but definitely go buy one. If you want a signed one, I think live signing, the links are everywhere. Click the link. So livesigning.com/MotoLady, I think it is. But yeah, read about 74 women in motorcycling, and all the photos that go along with it are really beautiful too. You know, some of them are taken by some personal friends of mine. Lana Keela McNaughton is also a motorcycling woman, and she has a company called Women's Moto Exhibit, which you can read all about in there. It's a traveling art gallery featuring badass women who ride. So, by the way, I lost my voice after Women's Moto Show,
which was killer all weekend. So great show. And if you can make it out to next year, you should definitely do it because this is my first year going, and I thought it was killer. It was awesome.
It's kind of local to you in comparison to Los Angeles.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, and I will definitely be coming to Los Angeles next year. So I will not miss it for the world. So I will be there.
I think we actually are invited back to Texas. So
what? We party again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And Ray has called doing the trophies every year, right?
I've already claimed it. It's mine.
Yeah, so she'll be doing trophies. If you missed it, she made some really cool trophies that I'm still really excited about. Just kind of jumping from one thing to another, talking about Women's Moto Show. But it was cool because a lot of the women that were in the book were also at the show.
And they were all incredible. They're just as incredible as the book, as what they are made in the book, in real life. And so, yeah, you should definitely.
Erin Sills, she's one of the ladies in the racer section. She is a land speed racer, and she just popped up, and I was like, oh, it's so cool, you know, because I had never actually met her in person. I had seen her at Bonneville Salt Flats during the Bug Motorcycle Speed Trials before they became part of Bonneville Speed Week or the week before. But she was there racing her Ducati, doing some of the stuff I wrote about in the book. And so it was really cool to have her come to Women's Moto Show. And then also she went around, I believe she went around, Crystal did as well, and got signatures from the women that are in the book that were at the show.
Oh, everybody was like, send me your book.
Yeah.
That's the way it was the whole time. It was
right.
super funny.
So it was really cool to have a bunch of those ladies there and all working together, because that for me is what the book is about, is actually bringing all of these people, women, into one space and one place that you can read about them and, you know, in my case, get inspired by.
Yeah, and the community, they're all just so inviting. Like they want to invite everybody and anybody that rides, like in the women's industry. Like they were all amazing to me. So and everybody else too there. So.
And I got goosebumps again. I was getting goosebumps all weekend long. That's why I have no voice. So I was just like screaming every time I saw someone else. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who, in person especially, but online as well, but in person at Women's Moto Show, where you see them, and then you have like, I mean, we just met at Women's Motorcycle Show, and like new best friends, you know. So it's that open arms, but also it's not even open arms. It's more like yes, fuck yes, you know, like go do the thing, and having those cheerleading like people in your corner, and then especially all at one place at one time. It was really exciting for me. And I, you know, from all the smiling faces that I got to see, it made me feel really good that everyone else seemed to have a really good time too.
Yeah, everybody did. So with that being said, you have a question that says, what inspired you to write this book and why now?
Some of these questions are going to be hard.
I know.
I think I wrote this book now because I was given an amazing opportunity from Motor Books, Cordo Publishing, and they wanted to publish a book about motorcycling women that focused on the women that are doing it and racing and not
Living and breathing it.
right, and not just, you know, the photos that we all know usually get, or historically for a very long time were used to promote women and motorcycles, which is just like them draped on a bike. And so they wanted the other end of it, and MotoLady started out that way back in the day, 10 years ago on Tumblr. Seems like a whole
that's like a whole nother, that's like MySpace.
I know.
It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, it was like we've completely evolved into a different type of, you know, social media and everything since then. And that's how MotoLady started, was featuring individual women, like, because I loved seeing these women doing these things, building these custom bikes. In some cases, there's even a girl that I've never met and have never seen again, but she was called Lil Sarah. And she had this amazing custom chopper and rode in Southern California. And there were all these photos of her that were published all over Tumblr, and I never knew where they came from or who it was or anything. And so I did as much research as I could to find out who that was. And I found out who built the bike. I've never met this girl. Like maybe someone will know her from this. Wouldn't that be cool? But cool. You know, it's all of those people that inspired me and got me wanting to be better at motorcycling, build cooler stuff, because I've always liked making things. So why not customize my bike, you know? And then past there, you start reading about the history of these women, and I love history in general. And then you get inspired by all the women that wouldn't take no for an answer 100 years ago, and think like, I have no excuse. And that inspired me. So when Cordo Motor Books, you know, approached me about doing the book, I had already thought it would be really cool to write a book. I have enough stuff on the MotoLady website to make a book, but wouldn't it be cool to write one and then
put it in the flesh
and actually have a physical thing?
It's like a motorcycle Bible for women. You know, that's why you should buy it.
It's like a lady motorcyclist encyclopedia.
Yes, there we go.
Part one.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was both, I guess, me being fortunate that I had been writing this stuff for a decade. Well, at that point it would be 8 years, and Motor Books found me and then offered to let me write a book and let me do whatever I want. And so I wanted to do individual profiles, but linking them together. And so there's historic stuff, but there's also the modern pieces, you know. So when you read about Carrie Clyde and Debbie Selden, who were the first women in America to get racing licenses through the AMA, and they had to fight for it, right? On the other pages are modern racers that are actually like Shayna Texter, that are now battling right next to the boys and make them
So
eat their
lame
dust,
and
right?
so
And
lame.
they're right next, just like this one's and they are right next to each other because I don't want a chapter about the historic women.
Mhm.
Some of these women also that are historic are also still around. Right? Mary McGee was the first woman to compete solo in the Baja 500, and she finished.
Yeah.
So she was first one to compete, first one to finish, and she's still racing and riding.
Yeah.
And she's amazing, right? And then Gloria Tremonton Struck was one of the first founding Motor Maids, which was the first ladies riding club in America. And she's still around and she's still riding.
So badass. It's just so badass.
I literally endless goosebumps when I talk about this stuff. That's why I wrote the book.
So who inspires you? I know like all these women, obviously, and more that didn't even make the book. Like of all these women that have come into your life that ride motorcycles or involved in the industry, who inspires you the most?
Well, I really hope that Sophie's watching this because she gets embarrassed whenever I talk about her. But like honestly, I would have to say Sophie is one of the top. Jessie Combs as well.
Yeah.
But for me, like Jessie Combs has left such a mark on everyone that she comes to mind because she's like synonymous.
She made it okay for us to be who we are.
Yeah. But on a really like personal and even further back level, Sophie Singos from GT Moto, and she is in here too. She has 4 pages, I think.
She's amazing. If you're watching this, I love you. Okay, go ahead.
We both do. I found her, I think it was on Instagram, and she was building bikes with her dad. That's how GT Moto was founded. Her company was because her dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he's still around. Hi, George. So happy about that. And in order to get his mind off of treatment and everything, they started building bikes together, and he took her to her first track day when she was, I think 16. So, he really supported her, and watching her with her metalworking and like the fact that she builds these amazingly beautiful bikes and then raffles them off for charity and donates all the money to St. Jude Children's Hospital. Like she just, again, goosebumps. I just was like, I want to know her. I want to be like that, and now she's like one of my best friends ever. And so from an inspiration level to an actual in-person ongoing to this day level, I seriously would say Sophie.
And she's just as incredible in the book as she is in real life. So if you ever get a chance to meet Sophie, like 100%.
Yeah, you don't have to exaggerate.
All the ladies, like literally, I met a lot of these ladies at the women's motorcycle show, and they were all fabulous. So I love them all, and you too.
And now we're all a big family.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's do. What's the hardest thing you've had to overcome as a woman? This is from an 11-year-old. Ooh. So Emma, we're about to answer your question.
Emma, that's a really good question, and also kind of tough because I think some things that are hard about being a woman in the motorcycle or automotive industry is that you never really know if something is because you're a woman, right? Like some people are just jerks.
Yep, that's true.
So and you're like, is that because I'm a lady, or is that guy just a
jerk? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard sometimes because you find yourself questioning, like, is this something that I'm in control of, right? Am I controlling the way these people are perceiving me in the situation? So I struggle a lot, or I have struggled a lot with that, and just doing the things you want to do and being confident in your work, I think, is one of the best ways to combat that part of it. And then other than that, obviously, is the thing that everyone talks about more, which is like pay gaps and those kind of things. It's more apparent from the perspective of women in motorcycling or racing, because you literally see women who are getting numbers times as good as guys that don't have as much representation, or it takes them longer to get there. And that is changing. That is changing. There are more women that are getting into, MotoGP, Moto3, those sort of things. And we're going to see that, I think, really flip.
It's going to keep going, keep growing.
Right.
Eventually, hopefully, there'll be like a solid women's division, which would be super, super awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
And women's division also that's doing women's races, but then women that are just in the same races that the guys so that we're just competing together on motorcycles. Because, maybe in certain like Olympic fields, there may be reasons to have the separation, but in my opinion, like
Oh,
women,
we're all
are-
the same.
yeah, when it comes to racing motorcycles or cars,
I
like,
mean, unless the guys are intimidated or, you know.
yeah, I mean, or, yeah, I mean, I'd be intimidated. Guess what? A guy who's 6 foot weighs 190 pounds on a motorcycle versus a 5'2" girl who weighs 110 pounds on a motorcycle. That's a lot of saved
Let's
weight.
stick it up.
Yeah.
Get your ass in here.
So if anything, ladies, you're automatically starting off faster for the most part, on average, than the guys are.
Oh yeah. So another question. What's one thing you wish your readers would take away from your book when they read it? What do you want them to have?
Well, what I've taken away from like all these stories with these women is that there's really no excuse to not do the things that you want to do. I mean, if you're like, man, I'd love to race, go race. And I'm actually talking to myself when I say that
It's
kind of
true.
stuff, you know?
It's so true.
Yeah, and there's always like reasons that, you know, well, maybe I shouldn't do this or whatever, but like if you want to do it, just
do it.
really just go do it. And because like all of the women in here that have found success or even just been successful in their endeavor, because there's like a whole chapter about traveling women that have, you know, some of them, one of them, Acapulco, has hit every continent, right? And she didn't do that by being all like, oh, I guess I'll just go do the same thing that I'm doing every day. And like, it'd be cool if I traveled one day. She just did it, you know? And there's a bunch of other stories about adventuring women too, that a lot of them like sold all their stuff and
just did it.
And that is honestly like the biggest thing I take away from all those stories. So I would want that same message and feeling. Really, it's not just a message. It's that feeling. It's like, why am I not doing it?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time on this planet, and so we have to make best of what time we do have and just send it and everything.
Send it.
That's what I do. I send it and everything I do.
Well, and if there's any message like after 2020 and the pandemic and everything that we all need to remember is that like we don't know what, you know, a month from now holds. So like take advantage of, even on this trip, you know, a few times I've been like, oh, I'll just go grab a photo of that later. And then I'm like, why? Like, why am I just not doing it now? Do it now.
Because anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Your life can change in just a second.
The entire world could change in just like a second, right? So go do it. Go travel. Go race. Go build that bike. Go tinker. Go take a class. Learn to weld. You know, whatever.
Yes. Okay. So we got some more. Do you have a favorite type of bike you like to ride, or several?
I like all motorcycles. Really do. Every time I get on one, I understand why people like that kind of bike. Even, you know, I'm not really motorcycles just went by. Get it. Even like I'm not really a big Harley person. Like I love the history of Harley. She's upset now. But like
I'm a Harley person.
I have one in my garage.
I know. But
So I mean,
Ducati, everything, right?
I mean, I have like such a close relationship with my Ducati because I built it from the ground up. So that's why I love that bike so much. And I love the Ducati sound. And I love that they were based and founded in racing. Like
also,
I love that.
I've never ridden a Ducati ever in my life.
We need to change that.
That could be why my opinion is so biased to Harley, but.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like I didn't get it until I rode.
She's like, I didn't get it, but I rode it.
I didn't get Harleys until I rode Harley, and I was like, oh yeah, I get it. Like I get why people like this, you know. But I historically like haven't been so much of a Harley person, but I still like really love Harley history, and I love choppers and like the art that goes into like the rolling art of these bikes that you can ride them and you look at them and you're like, how in the where is the stuff?
Yes,
Like I love that.
Well, what Amy, is it Amy?
Amy Mulligan.
Yes, like her bikes are freaking insane. She made gas tanks out of literally everything.
Yeah.
So I love
those bikes, and Amy Mulligan is in the book too.
Yes.
And she built both of those bikes out of like piles of parts in her junkyard / like backyard.
And when you look at them, they're literally junk, and it's like put together and it works, but it's beautifully put together. It's not just thrown together, it's literally beautifully put together. So I had a chance to meet her at the women's motorcycle show, and she's amazing.
Yeah, and thank you, Amy, for all your help at the women's moto show too, and Mike, Amy's husband. But yeah, she is incredibly talented. There are all these women that are in there, but like I don't have a favorite kind of bike because, you know, even this weekend, Lily, who is the sculpture artist that did the Dragonator bike, she took home 2 trophies out of 3 at the Women's Moto Show this weekend. Like, I would never dream up that motorcycle, not in 1,000 years.
So like even our helmet matched.
Yeah.
Like everything on it matched.
But it was awesome.
Crazy.
You know, and
crazy.
so I appreciate pretty much like all kinds of bikes, but like I personally get like really excited by the performance, the feel, the like everything of, you know, lighter weight like race bikes. So that's why I like a lot of Ducatis, is because that's what they're kind of based in, you know. I enjoy a lot of adventure bikes, and I would like to have I would love to have like a KLR 650 or something I can beat the crap out of, and that's why
it's run great forever.
Yeah, and my first bike that I wanted was a Honda Shadow. Like that was my dream bike.
Really?
Yeah, and then I got the knockoff version of that had an inline-4 engine and dual disc brakes, so it was actually like a performance like cruiser. It was Yamaha's first cruiser, the XJ 650. I got it for like $800, and it was such a piece of crap. Like we called it motorcycle boot camp, but yeah. So I appreciate like all bikes, you know, but like flat track bikes and the old school like scramblers.
I love scramblers. Like my next bike is gonna be a scrambler. I thought about getting another Harley, not an 08 Nightster, because that's the bastard year, and finding parts for that thing, it's been a nightmare. Yeah, for that thing, it's been a freaking nightmare. But we make it work. We make it work.
Yeah, so like all motorcycles.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So yeah, that's my next one, is scrambler. That like dirt bike tires on it. Oh,
I'll help you.
I want it so bad. I want it so bad.
All right.
Okay, next one. Okay, so how did you choose the ladies to be featured in your book?
Well, I made a giant list of all of the women that came to mind, not only that were, you know, in my personal life, like ones that have been involved in Women's Moto Show that I like learned a lot about, like Amy, who's an aircraft mechanic and also a builder of rat bikes and stuff like that, and Sophie, Jesse Combs, you know. And then I also went through some of my old articles on MotoLady that were like the adventurers and things, and then I did more research and talked to them whenever possible, you know. And I had 110, and I had to whittle it down, and that was the hardest part, because
I can only imagine.
Because at some points it wasn't even about the women, it was about like the story I wrote and which one the publishers were like, this one we like more, you know, and or the length of them worked better. And I mean, that's like, it's not the best answer, but it's true. Like, because there are so many more women that I wanted to put in this book, but it would have been like, you know, and we just couldn't do it for the first one. So again,
buy this.
Yeah, buy it. So I can see
for volume 2.
Yeah, exactly. Because I already have, you know, another 40% more women to just already that's starting out the book.
And the more and more you're in this industry and you keep traveling with the show and everything, you just meet more and more. Like there's so many amazing women that just came in. But just came in, you know, and like I met so many women even at the show that you could incorporate. So
I know.
Incredible.
Yeah, I know. And also from like, even when we as humans are trying to look outside of our bubble, and like with social media, we're a very global like motorcycle community now. I mean, my friend Crystal Hess, also in the book, does motorcycle missions. Her apparel was done by this his artist name is Hammered, or I honestly don't know how that is, Hamza, and he I think he's in India.
Really?
Yeah, and that's like who she, and the art is so perfect for her brand, and it's amazing, you know. Like he has done art for me before, he's done some flyers and things, and like that's what I mean about the global community.
Yeah, we met online.
Yeah,
that's how we met.
Right.
From somebody in Canada.
Right. But so even when you try to like meet diverse people and everything, until you travel, you don't necessarily meet a bunch of people out of like that same like walk of life or close, you know, degrees of separation and stuff. And so I definitely think even from Texas, like there's a bunch of people that I met. I'm like, how did I not?
That's all right. That's all right. You're here. You're here to stay.
Right. Right.
Next one. What age did you start writing? And did you always know this was going to be your passion?
No, I didn't start riding. I got my motorcycle endorsement when I was 18, and I didn't get a bike until I was 23. So I've been riding like 11-ish plus years now. And I mean, there are so many women in this book that started when they were like 4. And when I was reading about them, I'm like, of course you did. Like, of course that's why you're so awesome on motorcycle. Like, I wish, you know, because it becomes second nature, right? And like, I can rip around on a mountain bike and have almost no fear, but you put me on a dirt bike and like, I suddenly am very conscious of, you know, my lack of traction and the weight of the bike and everything. And it's not second nature to me still, right? So those are some of the things that would have been awesome. But no, I always loved like looking at motorcycles, and my cousins would like rip dirt bikes around me and I was never allowed. And so I always wanted to, but I never got to. So when I was 18, I went and took the motorcycle safety class through Team Oregon in Oregon. And I did really well. And that's not like my personal opinion. They wrote me a letter of recommendation to become an instructor. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, oh my God, as good as I feel on a bike, they think I'm that good on the bike. And so that's when those two things really connected for me. And I just kept going with it. And then it just, I don't know, like I kept just doing it, right? I mean, some things I've been throwing spaghetti at a wall in some cases, right? Like some things don't work.
Yeah.
Not every event works. Not every project works. Not every bike build is exactly what you want. Not, I mean, any of it, you know, or you start out on a bike that dies every time you take a motorcycle ride that's over 25 miles.
It's all about the chapters in your life, like the chapters in this book.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
You know, I was like, no pun intended. All right,
Puns
next
intended.
one.
Always puns intended. Always.
Next one. Are there any stories that didn't make the book that you were just, that have affected your soul? I added that part, but I'm just curious. Is there any stories that didn't make it in the book that have literally, truly just impacted your soul?
Bessie Stringfield. I was not able to put her story in the book, and it breaks my heart. She's mentioned in the article with Portia Taylor, who does Black Girls Ride. Bessie Stringfield was an amazing pioneer. She was the first Black woman to, I mean, do so many things on motorcycle, probably like all of the things, really, you know, but like not cataloged in history. And I wasn't able to put her story in the book. And she is just such like an incredible person historically for women in general, but also, you know, an entire demographic that is affected a lot, especially in the last year, you know. And the fact that I couldn't include her incredible story. She was the first, I think, woman, and I'm sorry that I'm like not able to remember the exact quote, but I don't like misquoting. First woman dispatcher for the U.S. military. She crossed the country 3 times solo in a time where there was still segregation. And I mean, people had asked me when I traveled in my truck with my bike on the back by myself, wasn't I scared? Like, and this chick was just all like, I'm doing it. And that to me is, it really makes me sad that she wasn't able to be included.
Goes back to the, just do it. If you feel it and you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah, right? You know, and I mean, she even talked about a lot of the articles about her and stories about her. You know, she would say that people were actually very gracious, and she would sleep on her motorcycle in parking lots. But
how wild!
I did the biggest goosebumps. I can't even imagine doing that, even in this age for me. And this was, you know, almost 100 years ago.
That's crazy.
So those are the people that I think it's really important that we all know the stories from and that we remember. And so, yeah, it really did affect my soul that I couldn't include her in the book. So
that's awesome.
Thank you for asking that question. I appreciate that one a lot.
Another one. This one's about where you live. Portland is one of my favorite cities in the U.S. What's your favorite thing about Portland?
All the awesome twisty roads around it and the food.
There's lots of good riding up there.
There's lots of good riding. I mean, you know, people know of the Snake in California and Tail of the Dragon, right? Those are 2 of those like famous motorcycling roads. But there are so many roads in Portland that they're all like that. Like,
really?
And there's not that many people on them. And like, you know, I mean, I'm not even gonna mention any because I don't want people to go explore yourself around Portland and find it. They're everywhere, and you'll find your own favorite roads, you know, like going out to St. Helens and stuff. And then on top of that, there's like tons and tons of off-roading. And historically, Oregon and the surrounding areas of Portland and all of the parks and everything are like super clean, and it's such a beautiful state. Like, there are a lot of things that with Portland growing rapidly that maybe I'm not a big fan of, but oh my God, like the riding and the food. And there's an amazing motorcycle scene in Portland. The One Motorcycle Show is in Portland. I think this last year was its 11th year. And it's just, I mean, it's massive. Like 50,000 people go to it over a weekend. There's 200 bikes. The last one is 122,000 square feet.
Wow.
Motorcycle mecca for the West Coast.
Massive.
It was massive. It was in a barge hangar.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out for sure.
You should check that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, another question. What's one more thing you would like to do in this life?
One more.
Like what's next for you? Volume 2.
Yeah, volume 2 of the MotoLady's book.
Volume 2.
Which again, live signing.
You should sign one while we're you, right?
I'll sign one for you.
Will you? Okay.
Yeah. What was the question?
So what's next for you? What's next for you? What do you want to do? What's another thing that's on your plate that you want to do?
I want to go photograph more of these women, not just the ones in the book, but like these types of women, the ones that are like to shout out to Teresa Contreras, Real Deal Revolution, which was started with Jessie Combs.
I love you too.
She was part of the women's Moto Show this weekend. I want to meet more of those women that are the real deal, that are doing this stuff. Or, you know, we had, I mean, what was 6 of them? Yeah, like 6 plus, because some of them were there some of the time, but that were part of the real deal, doing leathercraft, pinstriping, welding. We in the past we've had blacksmithing with Joyfire, and like Joyfire was one of the other articles that I had written that, you know, like I would love to have her in a future book, because like it's just endless. I honestly, I mean, sometimes I get lost in my own thoughts about it because there's just so many.
There's so many.
There's so many.
There's so many. So where do you see that this next chapter in books and being a published writer now, like where do you see it going? Like what's next after this besides volume 2?
Besides the volume 2. I mean, you know what was really rewarding for me at being able to have this book at the Women's Moto Show this weekend was all the kids.
Oh, I know. The little girls in their dresses, and they're like, oh my god. I saw it, I witnessed it myself, like those little girls, like just in awe of all these amazing bikes that were there.
I would love to try to work with like the younger generation too, more somehow. I don't know. Like we got a lot of ideas pinballing around in my head that haven't really come to fruition yet, but they will soon, you know, and I would really love to work with more, because it makes me just so excited, and having things in your life that make you feel excited and just like so like hopeful for the future, you know, because some things can get you down, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at these little girls that are just like stars in their eyes when they try welding for the first time or something. And I would love to work with Teresa and Real Deal more with little girls, young women, and all of that stuff. And like, I know even you mentioned that sometimes you do some of that, which is awesome. And like, those are the things that I think I would like to do more of in the immediate future. Women's Moto Show is another one that I'm going to be focusing really hard on. Phrasing. I'm going to be focusing on very specifically in the future.
Hardcover books. That's what we're talking about.
Am I blushing?
No, hardcover books.
Yeah. But focusing on, you know, working Women's Moto Show, maybe having some other Women's Moto Show events that aren't the, I guess, flagship is the best way to say it, because I do think that Women's Moto Show is going to be living in Texas from now on. So mark your calendars within the Get On Motorcycle Fest, which Get On Moto Fest is thrown by Revzilla, Cycle Gear, JP Cycles, and that alone was kind of a dream come true for me.
Oh, I bet.
So I would really love to make sure that the next year, which I mean, it was, I'm not trying to sound like, but it was really great. I mean, we had 29, not including like my mini bike, custom motorcycles built and raced by women. We did the Royal Enfield Build Train Race project reveal of 8 of their bikes.
Oh, those were incredible.
And it was the worldwide reveal. Like, that's a dream come true for me. Not only being able to reveal those bikes at the show, but the fact that that program exists. Brie Poland works, she's the Real Deal the Royal Enfield marketing exec and for America. And she started that, like, because women are getting into these roles, they're starting these programs. And so now we have Build Train Race that's giving ladies, some of them have never raced before, some of them have, like Melissa Paris. They're giving them these bikes. They're giving them budget to customize them. A lot of the women are doing like all the work themselves, and then they're training them to race them, and then they're racing them.
Which is so badass.
What more can you ask for?
So badass.
It's so awesome. So
badass.
I want to be focusing more on all of that side of, you know, MotoLady with the women's Moto Show. So those are the two things I think for my immediate future I'm gonna be doing.
Nice. Okay, so with all of this that you have going on your plate, somebody asked, how do you self-care? How do you de-stress?
Motorcycles. Also like leathercraft, you know, keeping my hands busy, building things. Every now and again, I like to have a bourbon and stuff with my friends, especially like after the last year. It's nice just to
Especially
like,
now
hang
we can
out.
get together and touch people and not wear masks and like, it's
and actually like hi,
hi, how you doing?
Hi, you're right here.
We're not 6 feet apart. I know, we can hug. Look.
Oh.
We can hug like this. That is probably the most incredible part.
So yeah, all of that stuff for de-stress for sure. And also I like to really obsessively plan builds and projects, like even to the extent of like drawing them in blueprints and things. So that's the kind of weird stuff I do to relax.
Love it.
Or go travel and sit in the middle of the desert and stare at the sky. That's another one of my favorite ones.
Oh my gosh, and not move.
Just
watch everything happen around you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there a female that you would consider to be your idol, or somebody you looked up as a young girl, or even now?
Dolly Parton.
Ah! We were just talking about her. I love
That's
it.
why she came up earlier.
I love in the Dolly World?
No, I want to so bad.
My gosh, we should make a trip because I went to Tennessee. That was like the only place I didn't go. I did get to go to Graceland, but like
we have so many adventures in our future. We should ride there.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Dolly Parton had a really, really, really rough, you know, childhood, and she was incredibly poor. And instead of having a bad attitude about it, like because she's just she's still so smiley, and that's her message. Is like it's almost the same thing. It's like go do the thing. And like, you know, she originally started out singing on another show for Porter Wagner as the girl singer, which like I learned a lot about the details of her because I always just really loved her music. Like I was very much into like old outlaw country and Willie Nelson and you know, Merle Haggard and all this stuff when I was a kid. And Dolly Parton was you know, one of the really successful and well-respected artists and musicians of that time. And she always did it with a smile, and she did it with style. I mean, maybe not the kind of style I would represent, like wear myself, but like she is an icon. She did it with grace. She accepted who she was, and she just went with it. What was my favorite quote that she always talks about? Like when she was a little girl, there was I guess a woman walking around and everybody called her the town tramp. Yeah. And she's like, that's me. That's what I want to be when I grow up. I know. Like, I fucking love that. It's that accepting herself and being her real self while also being kind and accepting of other people, and like all that. And I love that. I love that. I love people that live their truth, you know, for lack of a better term. Just be who they want to be, and who cares about the rest. So I would definitely say like from pre-motorcycling Alicia days would be Dolly Parton.
I absolutely love it. I love it. All right, we got a couple more questions. Let's see.
Hey, guess what? The best thing ever that happened on the artist's book is for the art.
There's a happy little accidents, is what Bob Ross would say. It's a happy little accident.
I always loved watching Bob Ross like that. But like for real, the best time for this pen to malfunction would be to be on Raise, because as an artist, you'll probably be like, hey, instead of a stranger where I would feel bad forever. So that's your
I'll take it.
But like it says, you are my sunshine.
Like ray of sunshine.
Okay. Pun's always intended.
Okay. All right. So we do have a question about the women's Moto Show. I know we've already talked about it a lot, but it said, any highlights worth sharing? What was your favorite part? Since we've already talked about it and like how awesome it is and how we're gonna keep doing this, and it's gonna be awesome.
What was my favorite part?
Yeah, what was your favorite part about Women's Moto Show this weekend? Like that you're like, this is epic, like life changing, like coolest thing that's happened to you over the weekend. What was it? And go.
Probably a bunch of the executives and marketing folks from the Get On Moto Fest coming over and being like, yo, your show blew it out of the park. And I was just like, because that's, for me, I mean, this show started as like a 4-hour party with my friends and friends of friends that I was like, tell them to bring their bikes. Like, let's all get this together and we'll have like some barbecue and hot dogs and show awesome bikes and whack a pinata full of, like adult toys. Like, oh, my phrasing
Alcohol.
again.
Alcohol.
Adult.
Like
what is the word for
the little alcohol things, not toys.
Airplane sized bottles of booze.
Yeah.
I had Magnum condoms in there. Like it was stickers, like just ridiculous stuff. But it was a pinata for adults, right? And it was just a silly party that then those motorcycles and everyone loved actually getting to see the collection of bikes. And so then I was like, I have to do this again. And I did it again. So for now it to be within the Get On Moto Fest and like be next to AMD World Championship.
Oh, I know. Freaking crazy.
That for me, it was, but on a completely personal level, my favorite, just seeing all of my favorite ladies. Really.
Everybody together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super cool.
Especially after everything. Like, it was just so
everybody.
nice to get to see everyone.
Cool.
So, totally selfish, but
That's all right. You don't get to see like everybody after the pandemic. It's nice to
Yeah.
be around people. Like
yeah.
that. Okay, so we got one last question and then that's all we're on.
Okay.
One thing in your life that has impacted you the most.
My dad dying was probably not the greatest one to end on. Although, to wrap it back into the positive side, my dad was a motorcyclist, which I didn't know when I was a kid, but that's why I have a Harley. It was his and then his uncle's, and now his again and then mine, right? He died 4 days after I got all of this stuff worked out with the publishing company to start writing the book. And so that impacted me a lot in writing the book. It impacted me a lot in general. I was talking to Sophie about it yesterday, actually, and she said, it changed you, but like in a good way. I mean, everyone's going to lose their parents, right? That's a fact of life. And the fact that I had to focus on was something that really helped me through that, is because he was always the kind of person that when I'd be like, I really want to, go ride my motorcycle this place, he'd be like, then go. Like, he'd just look at me like.
So he's a master of teaching you to just send it and just do it.
Well, my mom was like always really strong and like stubborn, but awesome lady that would just like get shit done and whatnot. And my dad was the kind of person that if he like felt like going fishing that weekend, he'd go fishing, and so I got a really good balance of two types of personalities in that way.
But play it safe, but also send it.
Yeah. But my dad dying, it definitely like solidified some of those things that maybe I wasn't focusing on so much at the time. So while it's kind of a sad thing to end on with the questions, it's also not a sad thing, because my dad, for me, I've said this a few times, I've put it in articles and things. I think it actually might be in the introduction of this, but he would tell me to like look all around and see what you looked at. And if it was a snake, it would have bitten you, because I'd be like looking for something, like, I don't know where it is. And he'd go, if it was a snake, it would have bitten you, because it'd be like right here, and that being really aware, and the fact, archery, he was an archer, and I mean, he had like a million different jobs, right? He used to be like a journeyman woodworker, and he was a wildfire fighter, and like all
Like
of
a wildland farm.
yeah.
That's
And I mean, just like a
badass.
plethora of different things that
So
my
that
dad did.
explains your badassery. basically.
But my mom was super badass too. Like she,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, all sorts of really cool things that she probably would be like, don't talk about it. So I love you,
So we
mom.
want to talk about it.
But I do want to like make sure, like, no, my mom and my dad both were badasses in completely different ways, right? But that's why they found each other in the first place, for me to exist. So yeah, that affected me a lot. But I mean, besides that weekend that I took that motorcycle class, and then I have, maybe not so much in my later years, it gets better when you work on it and things, but like anxiety and social anxiety is the thing that I've always had. And motorcycling gets rid of all of that.
Yeah, you know what's so funny that you say that, because like not to change the subject, but like I deal with high functioning anxiety and depression, and getting on a motorcycle, like you literally can't think about anything but what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like everything else just goes away, because if you think about everything else, that's when you wreck, or
Yep.
you know, you lose focus of what
Right.
you're doing and anything bad can happen. So I could totally agree 100% that like it's tremendously helped
Yeah.
my anxiety.
Yeah.
like,
It really is. I said it earlier, like motorcycle therapy, it really is a thing, you
it
know,
really,
and
truly,
and that's I know a lot of racers that talk about like that's one reason they love racing is because they are so hyper focused and it's they all of those other things are gone and it has like that clarity that I think I actually think a lot of times people are searching for in using drugs or drinking, you know, and all those things is like that not having a bunch of different things bobbing around in your brain all the time, being able to focus, right?
Yeah.
And motorcycling, going fast on a motorcycle, like those feelings of the turns when you're like leaning perfectly and you get the perfect moment and everything feels smooth, you know, like those are the most like emotionally rewarding moments
Yeah.
as well as physically. So it's kind of all encompassing. And so between motorcycle license weekend, when then I got that other thing back, it kind of, you know, solidified the fact that I am good at this.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me too.
Because we're all addicts. We just gotta find what we're addicted to.
Exactly.
100%.
It's true. That's human nature, I think.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's like jumping out of planes, climbing rocks, or you know,
Collecting rocks or whatever.
or like insanely watching Jeopardy, you know, like whatever it is. I mean,
Whatever
people
works.
have their thing that like gets their brain in the mode,
Yeah.
and you got to find that thing. Then when you find it, do it.
Do it. Don't even question it. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. Because if we questioned it, then I wouldn't be sitting next to you right now, right? So
Yep. And if I didn't just do it, like you swoosh because I just used a registered trademark.
just do it. Not Nike. We're
If
talking
you
about our own self.
Don't just get it done,
Get it
right?
done.
Then this wouldn't exist either. And for me, it's really awesome to actually have something physical that represents
This,
all of
man.
these women
This right here.
that
So
have
if
inspired
you're
me. Yeah.
Interested in writing, or you're just thinking about it, or you're ready to do it, like, dude, this right here should give you all that motivation that you need to get going. You know, look at all these incredible women.
So many awesome photos, awesome women.
Love it.
Yeah. And there's Sophie. I flipped right to her page. I love her. Oh, I took that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, look how incredible she looks. She's just freaking.
And her like majestic hair.
She's super, and the way she talks is majestic too. Like legitly look majestic. We like hang on every word she says. Every time she talks to me, I'm like, oh. Sorry, Sophie. But
totally
yeah.
right now.
That's all right. We're good.
So we actually finished questions.
We finished all the questions.
Those were good questions. They're pretty hard.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I can do it. I have this.
You could if you had
reading it.
me as a moderator, as I had you as a moderator.
I'm like reading them. I'm like, please don't let my dyslexia kick in. Do not kick
Another
in.
thing that you and other friends of mine have in common, we're all so similar in weird ways. Again, if you didn't make it through, Texas Motor Speedway and the Women's Moto Show shenanigans at the Get On Fest this weekend, then you can click the link and get yourself a signed copy from me. I signed them all, and then they bound them in the books, and they go out to you, to your doorstep. So yeah, give one away to your friends.
Yeah.
Shameless self-promotion, please.
Yes.
Or maybe your mom needs one. Maybe you're a
Everybody
writer.
needs one. Everybody needs one.
We're getting signed off. Thank you, Ray, for helping me.